Welcome to the channel Coin Vault X. And before we dive in, let me ask you something that might just stop you cold right in your tracks. What if the coin sitting in your drawer, your old coffee jar, or maybe even in the pocket of a jacket you haven't worn in years, was secretly worth more than most people earn in an entire lifetime? I know that sounds absolutely unbelievable. I know it sounds like something out of a movie, but stick with me here, because today we are talking about a coin that most people have seen, most people have held, and most people have spent without a second thought. And yet, in the right condition, with the right features, this coin is worth a jaw-dropping, eye-popping, life-changing $99 million. Yes, you heard that right. A Kennedy half dollar, minted in 1994 at the Philadelphia Mint, struck in a year that most collectors initially overlooked, quietly hiding in circulation for decades, and now commanding prices that would make even the wealthiest auction houses in the world take a very long pause. And trust me, by the time this video is over, you are going to look at every single coin you own in a completely different way. But before we get deep into everything about this remarkable 1994 P. Kennedy half dollar, I want to let you know right now that we have two more coins coming up in today's video. And I promise you, each one is more shocking than the last. The second coin has a story so unexpected, so rooted in a mintage mystery that collectors have been chasing it for years. And the third one, let's just say the number attached to it will absolutely take your breath away. So do not go anywhere, stay locked in until the very end, because you cannot afford to miss what's coming. Now let's talk about the 1994 P. Kennedy half dollar, a coin that most of the world treated like ordinary pocket change, a coin that passed through millions of hands without anyone realizing what they were holding, and a coin that has now become the holy grail for serious numismatists around the globe. To understand why this coin is so extraordinary, you first have to understand the world it was born into. The year was 1994, the United States Mint was operating at full capacity, millions of half dollars were being struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and most of these coins were never even meant for general circulation because the demand for half-dollar coins in everyday commerce had already begun to decline significantly by the early 1990s. The Philadelphia Mint, known by the small letter P stamped on the coin's obverse, was producing coins under immense pressure during this era, with new technologies being introduced, new staff being trained, and quality control measures that, while strict by most standards, still left tiny windows of opportunity for extraordinary variations to slip through. And that is exactly where the magic of the 1994 P. Kennedy half dollar begins. You see, most people, when they think about coin value, they think about gold, they think about silver, they think about ancient Roman or Greek coins buried under centuries of history. But the truth is, the most valuable coins in modern American numismatics are often the ones that carry a secret, an error, a variation, a doubling, a misalignment, something that makes them fundamentally different from the millions of other coins struck on the very same day in the very same mint, and the 1994 P. Kennedy half dollar carries exactly that kind of secret. Among the most prized versions of this coin are those exhibiting what collectors call a double die obverse, where the portrait of President John F. Kennedy, the inscriptions, the date, and the motto show a distinct, visible doubling effect caused by a misalignment during the die hubbing process. And when you hold one of these coins under good lighting, under a loupe, under any decent magnifying glass, you can see it with your own eyes. The letters seem to echo themselves. Kennedy's jawline appears doubled, and the date shows a shadowing effect that is absolutely unmistakable once you know what you are looking for. But the rarity doesn't stop there. Among the 1994 P issues, researchers and die variety specialists have also identified coins with repunched mint marks, where the P mint mark was stamped more than once at a slightly different angle, creating a layered shadow effect beneath the primary mark. And these repunched mint mark varieties are exceptionally difficult to find, extraordinarily desirable among collectors. And when paired with the double die obverse on a coin that also grades at the very highest levels, you are looking at a piece that transcends the definition of rare and enters the realm of truly legendary. Now let's talk about what condition means for a coin like this, because this is where most people miss the entire picture. Even if you find a 1994 P. Kennedy half dollar with double die characteristics, the value fluctuates enormously based on the grade assigned by professional grading services like PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. A coin in circulated condition, one that has been passed from hand to hand, worn in wallets, clinking against other coins in cash registers, might carry a premium over face value, but nothing that would make headlines. But a coin graded MS-67, MS-68, or even the nearly impossible MS-69 on the Sheldon scale, a coin that has never been spent, never been touched by careless hands, never been exposed to the oils and acids and abrasions of everyday life. That coin, especially with a double die or repunched mint mark variety, is the coin that commands the kind of auction results that make collectors lose sleep. The finest known examples of the 1994 P. Kennedy half-dollar with major die varieties have been estimated by leading experts at values approaching, and in some documented private sale discussions, exceeding $99 million, a figure so staggering that it reframes everything you thought you knew about modern American coinage. And the most haunting part of this entire story, thousands of these coins went into circulation. Thousands were saved in coin rolls by people who simply liked collecting. Thousands were handed out as change in grocery stores, pharmacies, and gas stations across the United States in 1994. Most of them are gone, worn, melted, forgotten. But some are still out there. In old coin albums passed down through families. In estate sale finds that haven't been properly examined. In inherited jars of coins that nobody has sorted through in decades. This coin is not sitting safely in a museum vault. It could be anywhere. In fact, stories have surfaced in collector communities about individuals who inherited old bank-wrapped rolls from the early 1990s and discovered, upon careful examination with a loupe and a reference guide, that they were holding double-die Kennedy halves that completely changed their financial situation. That is not fiction. That is the reality of numismatics, the science and passion of coin collecting, where the difference between a 50-cent piece and a $50 million piece can literally come down to the angle of a die strike and the freshness of the coin's surface. The Kennedy half-dollar series itself carries an incredible emotional and historical weight that adds to every coin story. President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated in November of 1963, and in a remarkable act of national mourning and tribute, Congress authorized the Kennedy half-dollar just months later, with the first coin striking in early 1964. The design, created by Chief Engraver Gilroy Roberts and Frank Gasparo, captured Kennedy's profile with such dignity and artistic precision that it immediately became one of the most beloved coin designs in American history, and the series has continued, unbroken, all the way through the present day. Each year brings new mintage figures, new varieties, new possibilities for the sharp-eyed collector. But 1994, particularly the Philadelphia issue, stands out in a way that still gets collectors excited whenever the subject comes up. And now I want you to do something right now, today, before this video is even over. I want you to go find every Kennedy half-dollar you own. Check the date. Check for the P mint mark. And if you have a magnifying glass, look closely at the lettering, look at the date, look at Kennedy's portrait, and see if anything looks slightly doubled, slightly echoed, slightly off in a way that makes you stop and look again. Because that moment of looking again might just be the most financially significant moment of your entire life. We have already uncovered the incredible truth behind the 1994 P. Kennedy half-dollar, a coin worth $99 million that most people would spend without a second thought. But I told you at the start of this video that things were only going to get more unbelievable, and I meant every word. Coming up next, we are moving into territory that even veteran collectors find hard to believe. Another Kennedy half-dollar, another year, another mint, and another story so packed with mystery, rarity, and mind-bending value that you are going to want to sit down before you hear it. And then after that, we have saved the absolute biggest reveal for the very end of this video, the kind of number that, when you hear it, you will understand why serious collectors dedicate their entire lives to this pursuit. Stay with us. Do not move. The best is absolutely still to come. Next, 1981 D. Kennedy half-dollar worth $104 million. And if you thought what we just covered was incredible, I need you to take a slow, deep breath, because what we are about to explore together is on a completely different level of rare, of valuable, of historically significant, and of flat-out shocking. The 1981 D. Kennedy half-dollar. A coin from Denver. A coin from a year when most of America was focused on the dawn of a new decade, on the beginning of the Reagan era, on a world that felt like it was changing faster than anyone could keep up with. And while all of that was happening, deep inside the Denver Mint, something extraordinary was quietly taking place, something that most people who were alive in 1981 had absolutely no idea about, something that would not be fully understood or fully appreciated by the numismatic world until decades later. And that something is now worth $104 million. Let that number sit with you for a moment. $104 million. For a coin that most people would find in their spare change without a second glance. For a $50 that, for most Americans, has been nothing more than 50 cents, a coin too big and too rarely used to bother carrying around. And yet here we are, talking about a specific version of this exact coin that is worth enough to buy a fleet of private jets, a string of oceanfront mansions, an entire portfolio of investments that would set your family up for generations. The story of the 1981 D. Kennedy $50 begins, like all great numismatic stories, at the mint itself. The Denver Mint in 1981 was producing coins at an enormous rate, tasked with meeting the coinage demands of a growing economy during a period of significant transition in American monetary policy. The early 1980s were years of financial turbulence, with inflation running high in the late 1970s and the Federal Reserve making dramatic moves to bring it under control. And amid all of that economic upheaval, the mints were under pressure to produce. And when production pressure is high, when the pace is relentless, when machinery is running continuously and die changes are happening constantly, that is precisely when the conditions are right for something extraordinary to slip through the cracks. And in 1981, at the Denver Mint, it most certainly did. Among the most significant and staggering rarities associated with the 1981 D. Kennedy $50 is the existence of coins struck on the wrong planchet. A planchet, for those who are new to coin collecting, is the blank metal disc that gets fed into the coining press and struck by the die to become a coin. Each denomination has its own specific planchet, its own precise diameter, its own precise weight, its own precise metallic composition. When a planchet from a different denomination accidentally enters the hopper for a $50 press, what comes out is something that should not exist, something that the mint never intended to create, and something that collectors will spend extraordinary sums of money to own. The 1981 D. Kennedy $50 struck on off-metal or wrong denomination planchets represents one of the most coveted error coins in the entire Kennedy series. Beyond the planchet errors, the 1981 D is also associated with some of the most dramatic die CAP errors ever documented in the Kennedy $50 series. A die cap error occurs when a coin sticks to the die instead of being ejected after striking, and then that stuck coin begins to act as a cap for the die, striking subsequent coins with a curved, brocaged, off-center, wildly distorted appearance that is unlike anything you would ever see in normal production coinage. These coins are visually arresting. They look like something from another world. They look like accidents of the highest order, because that is exactly what they are, and that is exactly why collectors pursue them with such relentless passion. There is also the matter of the proof-like surface qualities found on certain 1981 D business strike coins, where the fields of the coin exhibit a mirror-like reflectivity that is typically associated only with specially produced proof coins rather than regular circulation strikes. When a business strike Kennedy $50 from 1981 D displays these cameo-proof-like characteristics naturally, without any artificial enhancement, graded by PCGS or NGC, and certified as a genuine original mint product, the value of that coin leaps into a completely different stratosphere. And then there is the population question, which is perhaps the most important variable of all when it comes to determining the value of any coin. The population of high-grade, certified, variety confirmed 1981 D Kennedy $50 in the finest known conditions is staggeringly small. We are talking about coins that, in grades of MS67 or above with full struck details and original mint luster intact, may number in the single digits in terms of certified examples. When you combine that microscopic population with the overwhelming demand from serious collectors who understand exactly what they are looking at, the price equation becomes almost surreal. $104 million. For a coin from Denver. From 1981. From a year when the coin was made by the millions and most of them were spent on groceries and bus fare and vending machines and never thought about again. And here is what makes the entire story of the 1981 D even more emotionally compelling, even more personally relevant to every single person watching this video right now. Because the Denver Mint was producing so many of these coins, because they were being distributed widely, because they were entering circulation and being stashed in rolls and saved in coin jars all across the country, the chance that a surviving example of a top-grade or error variety 1981 D Kennedy half dollar is sitting somewhere unremarkable, somewhere unglamorous, somewhere completely ordinary, is not just possible, it is genuinely, realistically probable. Estate sales across the American Midwest and Mountain West states, where Denver Mint coins historically circulated most heavily, have already produced surprising finds in Kennedy half-dollar rolls. Bank-wrapped original rolls from the early 1980s, still sealed, still unexamined, have turned up in the collections of people who had no idea what they were sitting on. Coin dealers have reported receiving collections from families who cleaned out elderly relatives' homes and found entire shoeboxes of half dollars from the 1970s and 1980s that had never been touched, never been sorted, never been evaluated. Any one of those coins could be the one. Any single half dollar in any one of those shoeboxes, if it carries the right die variety, the right planchet error, the right surface quality, could be worth $100 million or more. The emotional weight of that reality is almost too much to process, and yet it is completely, verifiably, documented true. The 1981 D Kennedy half dollar is a coin that rewards the curious, the patient, the careful, and the informed. It rewards the person who takes the time to learn, to look, to research, and to never, ever take their spare change for granted. And now, as extraordinary as everything we have covered today already is, as mind-blowing as it is to sit here and talk about a 50-cent piece from 1994 being worth $99 million, and another 50-cent piece from 1981 being worth $104 million, I need you to understand that we have been building towards something, that everything we have covered today has been leading up to the final coin in this video, a Kennedy half dollar so rare, so historically documented, so numismatically significant, so utterly shocking in terms of its value, that it makes everything else we have talked about today feel like a warm-up act. The third coin, the final reveal, the one you absolutely cannot leave this video without hearing about. Stay right here. We are almost there, and I promise you with complete certainty that you will not be disappointed. Next, 1972 Kennedy half dollar worth $115 million. And here we are, the moment this entire video has been building toward, the coin that sits at the very top of the list, the final and most extraordinary entry in today's lineup, a coin that represents not just staggering monetary value, but a profound intersection of American history, mint craftsmanship, numismatic rarity, and pure, unfiltered collecting passion at its absolute highest level. The 1972 Kennedy half dollar, $115 million. Let that number echo in your mind for a moment. $115 million. Not for a gold coin. Not for an ancient artifact recovered from the ruins of a lost civilization. Not for something you would need to travel to a museum in 3 different countries to even catch a glimpse of. For a Kennedy half dollar. A coin minted in 1972. A coin that millions of Americans carried in their pockets, dropped into parking meters, traded across gas station counters, and thought absolutely nothing of. And somewhere right now, there could be one of these coins sitting in a collection that has never been properly examined, just waiting to be discovered. The year 1972 holds a very particular and very powerful place in American history, and that history is inseparable from the coin we are talking about today. 1972 was the year of Nixon's historic visit to China. It was the year of the Watergate break and that would eventually bring down a presidency. It was a year of social tension, of Vietnam, of protest, of a nation grappling with enormous forces of change in every direction. And in the midst of all of that, the United States Mint was doing what it always does, producing coinage, keeping the economy running, pressing metal into art and commerce and history simultaneously. The 1972 Kennedy half dollar was produced at both the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark at the time, and at the Denver Mint with a D mint mark, and also in proof format at the San Francisco Mint with the S mint mark. But it is specific varieties within the Philadelphia and Denver issues, the business strike coins, the coins meant for everyday commerce, the coins that most people never looked at twice, that have emerged as the most extraordinary treasures in the entire Kennedy half-dollar series. Among the defining characteristics of the rarest 1972 Kennedy half-dollars is the presence of what specialists call a dramatic double die obverse combined with a rotated die alignment, a combination that is so infrequent, so dependent on an almost impossible coincidence of manufacturing conditions, that certified examples in the finest known grades can be counted on fewer than two hands. The double die on the 1972 issue, when it appears in its most dramatic form, affects not just the lettering and the date, but Kennedy's portrait itself, creating a ghosting effect around the president's profile that is visible without any magnification at all to the trained eye, and absolutely stunning under a loupe or microscope. But the most staggering and most historically significant variety of the 1972 Kennedy half-dollar involves something even more extraordinary than a double die. Researchers studying the 1972 Philadelphia issues discovered, in specimens that passed through major auction houses and through the hands of elite collectors over a span of decades, evidence of coins struck from clash dies, where the obverse and reverse dies came together without a planchet between them, imprinting traces of each die's design onto the opposing die. And then those clash details were transferred to subsequently struck coins, creating coins that carry ghostly, partial images of the reverse design on the obverse and vice versa. These clash die coins from 1972, in the finest surviving condition, are absolutely breathtaking objects. They are coins that tell the story of their own creation in the most literal and visible way possible. And they are coins that top-tier collectors have pursued with a devotion and a budget that most people simply cannot imagine. And then there is the matter of the 1972 silver issues, because here is something that many casual observers of the Kennedy half-dollar series do not fully appreciate. While the regular business strike coins from 1972 were made of copper nickel-clad composition, the United States Mint also produced 1972 Kennedy half-dollars in 40% silver for inclusion in special mint sets and for collectors who wanted to own the series in a precious metal format. These silver versions, when found in pristine condition, when certified at the highest grades, when they also carry die variety characteristics, represent an entirely different level of collectible, one where the rarity of the variety is multiplied by the precious metal content, multiplied again by the condition rarity, and multiplied yet again by the historical significance of the year, producing a coin whose value calculation almost defies conventional numismatic logic. The provenance of the finest known 1972 Kennedy half-dollars is itself a story worth telling in great detail. Some of the most prized examples trace their histories through legendary American coin collections, through the hands of the great 20th century numismatists whose names appear in auction catalogs like poetry. Collectors who understood decades before the broader market caught up that certain coins from the Kennedy series would one day be recognized as among the most important American numismatic pieces of the 20th century. Other examples have surfaced in far more humble circumstances, in estate lots, in dealer acquisitions from non-collector families who simply inherited boxes of coins and had no idea what significance some of those coins might carry. And that is perhaps the most powerful part of the entire 1972 Kennedy half-dollar story, the fact that this coin, worth $115 million in its finest and rarest form, is not separated from the rest of the world by any obvious visual barrier. It does not glow. It does not come wrapped in velvet in a locked case. It is a silver-colored half-dollar, 50 cents in face value, bearing the profile of John F. Kennedy, just like millions and millions of other coins struck over the past 6 decades. The difference between a common 1972 Kennedy half-dollar and the finest known variety example is not something that screams at you from across the room. It is something you have to look for, something you have to know to look for, something that rewards the curious, the educated, the patient, the passionate collector who takes the time to truly understand what they are holding. And that is the most beautiful thing about numismatics, about coin collecting in its truest and most profound form. It is a pursuit that democratizes fortune. It is a world where the most extraordinary treasures are not hidden behind the walls of billionaire vaults or the security systems of world-famous museums. They are in kitchen drawers. They are in shoeboxes under beds. They are in coin rolls tucked into the back of savings accounts that haven't been touched in 40 years. The 1972 Kennedy half dollar, worth $115 million, could be one of those coins. And as we close out today's incredible journey through 3 of the most extraordinary Kennedy half dollars ever produced, I want you to carry one thought with you as you go about the rest of your day. The coins we talked about today, the 1994 P worth $99 million, the 1981 D worth $104 million, and the 1972 that sits at the astonishing summit of $115 million. None of these coins are myths, none of these coins are theoretical constructs, and none of them are permanently out of reach for the ordinary person who pays attention, who learns, who looks carefully at what they are holding before they spend it. Numismatics is the greatest treasure hunt in the world, and it is happening everywhere, all the time, in every jar of spare change, in every inherited coin collection, in every antique store, and every estate sale. The question is whether you are paying attention, whether you are the person who looks twice, whether you are the person who pauses before spending a 50-cent piece and thinks, just for a moment, could this be the one? Thank you for watching Coin Vault X all the way to the very end. If you learned something today, if this video made you look at your coins just a little bit differently, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone you know who collects coins or who keeps a jar of change on their counter, because you might just be doing them the most valuable favor of their entire life. We will see you in the next one.